Get that vape in, Cabs. I'm not cutting this out.
Oh, that's better than good.
Welcome back to On Your Mental. This is the podcast that shares candid, open, and sometimes vulnerable conversations between and about men. I'm one of your co-hosts, Ruben.
I'm the other
Ho-Coast.
I'm the other Holy Ghost. Kabir. Leave it in.
I will leave it in. This week is an incredible episode. If you are not leaving this episode inspired in the slightest, something is wrong with you. I guarantee it. We're joined by a really amazing guest, Sarah Perry. Sarah tells her story being diagnosed at 5 years old with brain cancer, having a total of 13 brain surgeries in her life, and to ultimately, and she'll tell you this, and I don't mean to spoil anything, achieve some pretty incredible stuff in the world of CrossFit. So we'll leave you to listen to the episode here. But of course, if you like this one, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And there's an important announcement regarding the podcast at the start of the episode, which you'll hear soon.
Right at the start. I'm not even going to ask you to smash the like button because...
Yeah. Who gives a shit at this point?
Yeah.
Because you'll hear why in a moment. Okay. Anyways, enjoy the episode. We'll see you in a second when it starts. Peace. First and foremost, welcome to the podcast, Sarah Perry. Welcome On Your Mental.
Thank you.
Thanks for just being here, first of all. I know it's take an hour out of anybody's day is sometimes a lot to ask, so I appreciate you being here. And welcome back, Kabir. Kabir missed last week's episode, so fuck you.
Thanks for those 2 comments on there.
It's up to 4 now.
Is it?
Yeah. No, 3.
No,
3.
Is it 3?
There's a
I
third.
replied to 2 of them.
There's a third one now. It
Oh.
was a real long one.
That's
I said
nice.
in the last episode, I had just like a one-on-one conversation with this guy, Ryan.
Yeah.
Great story. And at the start of it, we were just saying we miss Kabir and leave a comment if you also miss Kabir. And people actually did. So shout out to them.
Okay. Shout out to Kabir. Welcome.
Yeah, right. Welcome back.
back.
Scumbag.
Thanks for having me here.
Of course.
I'm so happy to be here and share my story with both of you guys.
I'm excited to hear it. I've known you for a couple years, I guess, a few years. And I don't know a lot of detail about your life. And so this is going to be kind of cool to get into your story a little bit. Before we do, if it's okay, rather than jumping straight in, I've got some podcast logistic things to get out of the way for our audience, if that's all right.
All good.
Some updates to share. For people who listen to the podcast, nothing's really going to change for you. For people who watch the podcast, something is going to change. Starting not with this episode, but the episode after this at the earliest, maybe another one, who knows. We're not going to upload the full videos onto YouTube anymore. We're going to make it exclusively a listening experience for the time being. And on YouTube, we will still upload stuff that's not just 30-second clips. We'll take out some of the major themes from each episode, condense it into like a shorter, easier to watch thing, like under 10 minutes kind of deal. Those will go up.
Nice.
Might have a few of those in a week, right? Depends on what I choose to cut out of the episode. The reason why is looking at our stuff. I mean, shout out to our listening audience. That continues to grow week over week. And the reviews have been really good on the audio platforms. If you haven't, take a chance, go over to Spotify and leave us a review if you wanted to. We're at 88 5-star reviews.
Wow.
Nothing less so far. So I'm happy with that. But we want to see a bit more, I guess, fruits from your labor, right?
We want to see something.
I want to see something. It's not that
so no one's smashing the like button.
No one's smashing the like button, and the views have dropped a fair bit on YouTube. And I think it's just because it's a lot to watch. We're asking people to sit down and watch an hour.
Sometimes an hour.
Sometimes 20. An hour plus, right? And it's a fair bit. So understandably, maybe you don't want to watch, and it's easier to listen, right? Throw on a podcast, go for a walk. So that's going to change.
Nice.
Not this week, probably next week. You won't see the full episode on YouTube, but you'll see some shorter clips. The full episodes will always be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Okay?
Awesome.
That's it.
Woo.
Now, on the topic of jumping right in, I think that you've got an interesting story to tell, and I'll let you tell it. And if you're not, for our audience, motivated after this to go out and do some shit for your physical health, what are you doing? Listen to this episode. Go for a walk. Go for a run. Do some stretching. Go to the gym. Do something because you're a pretty inspirational person who I feel like has a large passion for fitness
Mm-hmm.
and physical health,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just this radiating like positive person all the time. Every time I've talked with you, you're always just such a good person to be around.
Thank you.
We'll start with, because we're on Your Mental, we talk about mental health a fair bit, right? I'd like to hear a little about your story, your journey with mental health, and what that has looked like over the years, focusing on the mental side of things. But at the same time, I do want to hear, because I've only heard like little bits from your sister, because I know your sister, about a physical side of your life too, right? You have a diagnosis. I don't even know what of, to be honest. I've just heard like, oh, she's got this thing going on.
Right.
Maybe start with that.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. No. Oh, totally. So I got heavily into CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to rewind back to when I was 5.
Sure.
So back to when I was 5, I was diagnosed with an astrocytoma. So, brain cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Super crazy. So I was constantly throwing up as a child, and I was super unhealthy. Like, I was a skinny, small 5-year-old. And my mom was really concerned, and she would take me to the hospital, and they would be like, she's fine. She probably has the flu. I had no fever. And they were like, no, she's fine. She's fine. We kept going to the hospital. And then this one night, my dad gets up really early for work, and 5 a.m. I'm awake. And what 5-year-old is awake at 5 a.m.? It was just really odd. It was like little kids sitting there on the floor. I actually don't remember this, which is interesting because a lot of people ask me what I do and don't remember. So he was like, why are you awake? And I couldn't explain to my parents that while I was laying down, I was having pressure in my brain. Like, I couldn't...
Like you don't describe that feeling at 5 years old.
And you just do whatever you can to like make it not feel like that. And so sitting up would help. I still kept throwing up. Long story short, my mom ended up taking me to Children's because Richmond Hospital had misdiagnosed me twice.
That's scary with what you have.
It's really, really scary. So she took me to Children's Hospital. She was like, can you get a scan? Can you get a CT? Can you get an x-ray? Can you do something? And they were like, ma'am, like, you have to wait, yada, yada, yada. They also wanted to send us home because visually there was nothing wrong with me, because I would only throw up when I would have pressure in my brain, which was when I was laying down. So when I was sitting up, everything was normal. I looked very okay. I wasn't sick. I wasn't throwing up. She was like, I'm not leaving here until I get a scan, some sort of scan.
Good mom.
Very good mom. Like, crazy. So I ended up getting an x-ray. And then what showed was that the cavity of my brain was covered with cancer. In the middle of my brain was like growing cancer, like growing rapidly fast. And they were like, I remember this. But my mom initially explained this to me as years went by. And she was like, yep, I remember when the doctors and the surgeons had to pull me aside, because it was just me and my mom. My brother and sister at school, and my dad's at work. And she was pretty much trying to figure out what was going on with my health. And they were like, you need to call loved ones. You need to call family. You need to call your kids.
That's
you need
scary.
to call your husband. I even have goosebumps even telling it from her point. So I can't imagine how she was feeling at the time. Because we need to operate on your child now because she has a 50-50 chance of living.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was crazy. And so at the time, I don't know what's going on. I just want to be a kid, right?
Yeah.
I just want to go to school and I want to play and I want to do these things and I want to hang out with friends. So they initially did a craniotomy, which is surgery from one end, or from one ear all the way over to the other ear. That's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And till this day, I have had over 13 brain surgeries.
Wow.
13. Yes.
I'm like, I can't wrap my head around this. Yeah. Wow. 13 brain surgeries.
13 brain surgeries. So at the time, the cancer was attached to 3 vital organs. So my hypothalamus, my pituitary glands, and my optic nerves.
Wow.
So they said, we need to do surgery now because we don't know if she's going to make it. All this stuff happened. I was on IV, a little blurry in between. I can't remember everything, but I remember waking up from surgery and like I couldn't see, like there were bandages over my eyes. I had a huge bandage over my head. The surgeon was like, you are so lucky that your child is still alive. But since the cancer was attached to her optic nerves, she's become 75% blind.
You're 75% blind?
So I am 75% blind. Now, this isn't something...
Why don't I know this? Like, I know you and I don't know this.
No, it's okay. Honestly,
Wow.
like, not a lot of people know and not a lot of people can notice. Like, it's not... Like, it's not something that I would be like, hey, guys, by the way, right? People are like, oh, can it be fixed with glasses? It's sort of like if you get your arm chopped off, you can't grow it back.
Right,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, kind of like that. So
sorry to interrupt.
No,
but
no.
With the optic nerve, then, like,
Yep.
what happened? Like, the nerve is severed? What did they do with it?
I don't actually know. There's a lot of things that my mom asked if I wanted to know, and there's a lot of things I didn't want to know,
Sure.
and there were things that I did want to know.
Can respect that, yeah.
Totally. And I can't believe how much a mom could take on, like, because you have to explain to the parent what you're going to do to the child in terms of surgery, right? And I think that's really traumatic. So if you take your left hand, both of you, and you cover your left eye, and then you take your right hand and cover the outer half of your right eye, that is what I see.
For real?
For real.
Hey, yo.
Surprise.
Wow.
Yeah.
No kidding. So your right eye is the one that's actually got vision.
Right.
And even then it's half of it.
It's half. And
Wow.
oh my gosh, I have so much to tell about that. But actually, the story's not over because after that surgery, a year later, the cancer came back full force. And I had to have 64 weeks of chemotherapy.
How old were you then? This was now just 6 years old?
I was 6 years old.
Jeez.
Yes. So I lost all of my hair. The medication was so strong that it changed me. Medication, especially chemo, does a lot to people. It changes their look. It changes their mood. It changes their appetite. It changes... it even changed my hair. So I lost all my hair. Yeah. And then when it came back straight. Because when I was little, it was really curly. And then when I lost it, it came back straight. So
is chemotherapy, like, it affects you at like a DNA level?
Yeah.
Holy hell.
Yeah, and I think I've heard that it can change like people's like the pigment of their eyes. Like, it's crazy. It's a strong medication that does strong things.
And you're so young too.
Oh.
I can only imagine that kind of compounds the effect of it, you know?
Oh, totally.
Wow.
And so here I am as a 6-year-old, and I'm getting all this medication, and I'm like, I just want to go back to school. So now that the medication has completely changed how I look, I've gained maybe like 30, 40 pounds. So before I had the initial surgery, I was underweight. So I was too skinny. And then when I finished chemotherapy, I had gained all this weight. So after chemotherapy, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go back to school. I want to play. I want to see my friends. So this is a big thing. Elementary school, you're 6.5. You're going back to school and you're like, yes, I'm going back. And here I can see how my mom felt, where versus me as a 6-year-old, I'm like, I just want to go back to school and play.
Sure. Yeah.
So I go back, and I'm like, hi guys, I'm ready to play. And it's like this whole different person has come back. Like, I don't want to say a monster, but I'm heavier. I have a lot of my hair gone. I look different. It was different. Yeah. And some of the kids were like, oh my gosh, Sarah, it's so good to have you back. It's so nice to see you. And believe it or not, some of the parents of children who I went to school with were like, make sure you don't go near that girl because
Really?
we don't want you to catch what she has.
That's fucked up.
So
It's also not contagious.
it's not
first of
contagious. I was
all.
like, okay, clearly there isn't a lot of like
Awareness.
awareness or
Mhm.
knowledge even like for younger kids. And
Mhm.
so I lost a lot of friends
Yeah.
in elementary school, and people didn't want to be my friend. Until this day, I went to high school with them. I still know them. I still see them. And there were people who stuck with me through thick and thin ever since then till now.
Mm.
And I still know those people, and they have so much respect for me, and I have so much respect for them. And it was crazy because I was bullied by kids. I was bullied by
their parents.
and their parents and by teachers.
Wow.
It
What
was
happened with
crazy.
teachers?
It was crazy. I needed a little bit extra help. I had lost my vision. I was on medication.
Of course you need help.
Yeah.
I needed a little extra help, and I think
For God's sake.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that when this happens, you're dealing with something new.
Mm-hmm.
And usually people, they go about their day and they go about the same thing all the time. Just a bunch of kids.
Mhm.
But then when there's a kid that needs extra help or a kid that's different, it takes a little bit of extra time and work.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a lot of the teachers wanted to do that. And I hate to say that.
Mm.
I know there are good teachers out there, but there are some also really bad teachers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know you guys know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all been through it. And they didn't want to spend that extra time or effort to help me, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there was a point where like I needed extra stuff. Like I needed things from my brother in elementary school, and the teachers wouldn't let him care for me. It was so messed up.
Okay.
And like talk about how to teach kids about inclusion. I felt like the elephant in the room
Mm.
because I needed extra help. That's not how you include a child who's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just felt so like out of place,
Isolated.
so isolated, and so like, oh, why do you have that? How come
Mhm.
she like explain to the children, teach them, right?
Mhm.
And these are the things that people should learn about,
Mm-hmm.
right? To accept everybody,
Mm-hmm.
to accept everybody in society, like
Mm-hmm.
race, age, color, gender, whatever
it is.
everything. Yeah.
Because and especially as a kid, the last thing you want to have going on in your life is to not fit in.
Mhm.
You know, to
Oh
feel
my
that
gosh.
you are like outside of
Yeah.
the group, the in
Yeah.
group, right?
Yeah.
That's huge. You just want to fit in. You do so much to try and fit in as a kid.
Yep.
And then you got all these barriers thrown at you, and now the people that are supposed to be helping you on that aren't. That's tough.
It was so tough, and basically I had to advocate for myself
Mm.
at the age of 5.
As a
as a
6-year-old.
yeah. Oh, totally. And I think that's why I am who I am today. Like all these things, all these lessons, all these trips to the hospital have made me who I am. And I, see other people struggling, and I want to lend a helping hand. And yeah, and the story doesn't even stop there. I had like multiple surgeries because there were complications after the cancer. And those happened in high school, which was even worse because kids start to ask questions. Where were you? How come you were gone for so
Yeah.
long? And then teachers don't know how to catch the individual up. Don't wreck my flow. I'm just working with the normal kids kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have to go this extra mile for this one kid. It's like, well, you don't have to go an extra mile. It just takes a little bit of effort.
Yeah.
So
It sounds like you felt a bit let down
definitely
through education. Yeah.
definitely was let down through education. There were definitely some teachers that were really, really, really good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Really understanding, but very few.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks for sharing all that first.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
no. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I only ever heard brain stuff.
Yeah.
Like I think
Yeah.
that's actually the words your sister used at one point was brain stuff. I feel
Mhm.
like maybe she said cancer, but that obviously slipped the mind. But wow, 13 brain surgeries, 75% blind. But you
I
do
just hit my
so
nose on it.
much. No, it's
And I hit my chin.
She's blind. Give her a break.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, talking about like the school stuff, like clearly I can like hear how that would impact mental health even at a young age, right? But at that point, like, you don't even really know like what's going on mental health wise.
Well, it wasn't like, how do I say this? My mental health was physical and mental. Like, it was like I had the brain surgery, so it happened on my brain physically, but also mentally. So it was like all this stuff was happening at the same time. And as a 5-year-old, how do you cope with that?
Yeah.
There's like, back then, I feel like there wasn't as much access to tools that should have been provided for an individual like myself. But yeah.
Yeah. And your mom was such a positive impact, it sounds like, throughout all of this too.
Oh yeah.
And as far as I know, she continues to be like a pretty big part of your life. You talked at the start of what you were saying, you got really into CrossFit, and we'll get into that in a second. But your mom's in there with you too.
Yep, totally.
Right?
Yep. She I got her into CrossFit, and now I'm teaching her CrossFit, which is really cool.
That's so cool.
I'm a CrossFit instructor, which is huge because as a person with a disability, and I hate using that word because I feel like people have so much ability regardless of what's happened to them. You have endless abilities to do whatever you want to do. And it was so hard to feel accepted in society. Like, where am I going to find a job? How am I going to make enough money to pay rent? How am I going to be independent? And so I was really lucky to land this job at an awesome CrossFit gym. And now I'm working there and I'm training my mom, which is amazing.
That's so cool.
It is so cool. And I took my CrossFit level 1 course. I've done all these things. I went to culinary school.
No shit.
Yeah. You know, all these things that I thought I couldn't do because of my disability. I really brought out what my abilities were and really wanted to make those shine. So after high school, I went into culinary school. And you know, it's these things that you do and these places you travel to and these things that you try, you meet so many amazing people. And it was so cool because I shared my story with everybody there and they were totally blown away. They were like, can we give this girl a knife? Like, is this okay to do? But no, it was awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Wow. I'll want to ask like later on a little bit more about like you and your mom and what goes on there, because like I have a very strong relationship with my mom, and I think that that's really cool what you got there. I mean, she was there from the very beginning when this started happening when you were 5. Obviously it sounded like she was a big part of it throughout, and then now this really cool like way your relationship has evolved. That's interesting. So I do want to ask about that in a little bit too. Where would you say like you're at regarding mental health and kind of how you view this part of your life today? Like, what does that look like for you now?
Great question. So a big part of like my mental health to do with what happened to me in my life was, how do I get over accepting myself? I think that's a really big thing for people, is accepting. Acceptance, whether that be a family member, a friend, or yourself. I think it's a big thing. So I feel like I had a really big struggle in terms of society and how I fit in, how I would fit in, right? Because you're always worried about, like you said earlier, where do you fit in and how do you fit in? So it was a constant mental battle with myself about how am I going to be okay? So obviously when I was younger, it didn't really make sense. Then there's that elementary school kind of period where, you know, you just want to play. Then there's high school. High school, I think, was like one of the hardest for
Relentless.
a lot of people.
Relentless.
Totally relentless. I gotta say, the girls were awful. The girls were brutal.
I'm sorry to say too, my mom said that she wanted a boy because she said girls are mean.
They are so mean. There's a reason that there's a movie called Mean Girls. I like, seriously. And it was like that point where,
by the way, this is a generalization. Sorry, like that we're making jokes here.
Oh no. Totally.
Girls are not mean. They're wonderful people. Sorry, you're at this point where
I was at this point where I didn't know how to accept myself. And as years went by, I and I'm sorry if I'm going off on like not answering this
Go where
question,
you
but
want.
it's I developed an eating disorder during high school. A lot of social media, a lot of Instagram, a lot of like things.
You're supposed to look this way, be this way.
Yeah, and like if you drink this tea, you'll look like this. Oh my gosh. It's crazy.
Never.
Yeah, never. Yeah, and so I actually developed an eating disorder, and I totally did not accept myself then. Took years to get over that, and it was crazy because I had already put myself, well, I didn't choose, but I had already gone through so much in my life that then there was another chapter to go through.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I'm in remission since I was 5, so like from brain surgery,
right?
From brain cancer.
Brain
so
cancer, yeah.
Yep. And then I like created this other whole like demon to like overcome, which was crazy because I wanted to fit in. And then after that, I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to find a way to keep myself healthy and keep myself well. I was a dancer. I was a rower. I did weightlifting, went to the gym all the time. And then I found CrossFit.
Yeah.
Yes, this is like
This is the best
part. Yes.
Yeah.
I was a little lost because I was rowing throughout high school. Then it was like college or university or whatever. And then you feel kind of lost because you don't know what to do. And
You
then
did rowing in college, university?
No.
That'd be
But
so cool.
that would be very cool.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I was going to the gym all the time, and then that got like super boring. And then I was like, oh, there's a CrossFit gym. And I dropped in. And then ever since I dropped in, I was like, this is amazing. I want to be the strongest person for myself because all those other things, unhealthy habits that I was doing were for other people. Like it wasn't ever for me. It was like, I want to look good for so-and-so, or like, why, you know, when you ask yourself, why do we do what we do? It should be for ourselves. If you're going to get your nails done, don't do it to impress someone else because you're just wasting money on somebody else who doesn't even know that you're doing something for them.
Right. That's such a good point.
You know, yeah, like do stuff
you.
do it for you. And so I was like, I want to become an extremely strong person, not only physically but mentally. And believe it or not, I went to CrossFit I've been doing CrossFit for almost 2 years, and I have had 6 brain surgeries
within those 2 years.
Within those 2 years. So,
wow.
The biggest thing, and people always ask, how do you do this? How do you overcome this? Like, oh my gosh, you are doing so well. Every single time I have brain surgery, back to square one. Wow. So like doing so well, building up weight, PR, back to square one.
Yeah,
it's like dealing with an injury, but
do you know
way
how
worse.
Frustrating it's crazy. It's almost like Groundhog Day.
I can only imagine.
Like it's crazy.
Wow.
And so yeah, like people are like, how do you deal with it? And I think that was one of your questions is how do you
how do you deal with these like events as they come up, you know, like what's your mindset as you go through that? Because that sounds like a setback.
It sounds extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Yeah.
So the news, which this has happened so many times, it's like I can tell it like it was yesterday. So the surgeon comes in, tells me what happens, tells me what he can see on the scan, which is very unfortunate.
How often do you go for scans? It sounds like a regular thing then.
So the reason for my past brain surgeries, which is the story that I haven't told yet, is after the cancer, a separate issue happened. So after my chemotherapy, after the cancer, after the craniotomy, there was a buildup of fluid in my brain, and that causes pressure. And so I had to have a shunt put in. It's like a little valve. It drains the spinal fluid from your brain. It's totally separate issue. Like, this girl's been through enough. Come on.
Yeah, right. Fuck off.
Yeah, it was crazy. So that kept breaking. So they kept having to operate. And they kept having to change different parts because there's 3 parts to it. It drains from my head, goes behind my ear, and into my stomach. I know. It's kind of cool. And so it kept breaking. or there was an infection, or there's something wrong. There's always something wrong. And so finally, when I was graduated from Children's, I was sent to VGH. Had multiple surgeries there, multiple revisions there. Finally, my surgeon was like, okay, this has happened way too many times. This girl needs to like basically live her life without having setbacks all the time.
Right.
So this past surgery,
Like the most recent.
2021, knock on wood that there's no more. The most recent one was, they actually switched the side it was on, which is huge. They're like, so the surgeon came in. He was like, so on the scan, I can see that your ventricles are not right. And I was like, okay, what does this mean? And he tells me, and I hear nothing. Like, I hear white noise. I can't hear anything. Like, I'm like, and my mom's like, Sarah, do you understand what the surgeon has just said to you? And he explained everything to me. He was like, what we're going to do is we're going to open you up. We're going to take the valve out. We're going to put you on antibiotics for 7 days. Then we're going to switch the side of the and I'm like, I hear nothing. I hear nothing you're saying. Everything that's happening in my head is, okay, how am I going to lift again? How long is it going to take? How long am I going to be in the hospital? I don't know how to tell my friends and family. All this stuff, all these things are going through your head, and you don't hear anything that the surgeon is saying at all. It's almost like you're in shock.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And I remember there was like visitors there, and the surgeon had come in, and Mom was like, you guys need to leave, because she does not understand what's going on, and she's also going to have a massive breakdown in like 3 seconds. My mom knows every single time I break down what I'm thinking about, and it's about lifting.
Wow. It's that big of a piece of your life,
It's that big of a piece of my life, because every time I'm like, the doctor's like, do you have any questions? Or the surgeon's like, do you have any questions? Even after my surgery, do you have any questions? When soonest I can start lifting, right? And so she knows that I know that, okay, it's I don't want to say it's over, but it's time to deal with what's going on now. And that's a big thing to do, is deal with now.
Yeah.
You know, people make mistakes, and people get excited about what's in the future, you know, but you really do have to live for that moment. And so I remember I said, I don't understand what you're saying. And there were like tears running down my eyes. And he was like, okay, Mrs. Perry, do you understand what I told you? She said, yes. He was like, I'm going to leave you guys with your family so that you have some time to process what I've just told you. I'm just like, I've had it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've had way too many surgeries. I have been set back so many times, and I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. It's so hard. It takes so much time. It takes so much effort, and it's crazy. And I was like, Mom, I don't want to do this anymore. And at one point when I was 5, I told her that too. And a 5-year-old being like, I can't do this. Like, just take me. Just take me away. Like, I don't want to go through any more pain. I'm in so much pain. Make it stop. And as an parent, hearing that from a small child, you are kind of like, okay, I have to be really strong for my child and explain to her that there's no other option. Yeah.
And you also like, they wouldn't want to like devalue your feelings, like tell you like that's not valid to feel that way, right?
Oh my gosh.
Like, fuck, like I'm not gonna let you say no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right?
But I was imagine. Like, I was like, I'm done. I'm done. And my mom was like, you can't be done. That's not an option. Like, it's the surgery. But I was like, this happened so many times that I can't stand to do this. I'll have my surgery and I'll quit. And I won't do it ever again. And I just want to give up. And I just want to like be in a hole at the bottom of the earth, like just stay there. And I explained that to her, and like it made her so sad. But it was how I was feeling in the moment, right? Obviously, I then was like, okay, like I need to do this. I need to get over this. We're going to take one day at a time. My brother came home. People came in to visit. It was crazy. I was on antibiotics for 7 days without any device in my head. And the reason being is because the doctor didn't want any infection, because he didn't want to have to do the surgery again. So I initially couldn't move, because if I changed how I was sitting or sleeping, the pressure would there would be more pressure.
There'd be like a shift in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so I was on some hard drugs for 7 days, like hard. Like
Right.
I didn't remember, and I can't believe that I can't remember 5 to 6 or 7 days of my life.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
In your adult life.
In my adult life.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. Not only when there's things that I remember that when I was a child, but this I can't even remember because I was on such heavy drugs. Because it was so painful, because he had to wait until the pressure built up to put the valve, to put the shunt into
That's
the valve.
interesting. You have to wait for the pressure to build first.
Yes. Yes. It's very interesting. And so I remember going into surgery, and they were like, yeah, we just want to tell you what we're going to do. And I was like, I need you to get me a bucket because I'm about to throw up. And then surgery was done. I was back out, and then I was on the mend to healing. And then 1 month after I had gotten home, I had my appendix taken out.
let her live.
It was Halloween night, and I was like, I want to go check out like all the haunted houses and like all the cool stuff going on. And I was like, I can't walk because I'm in so much pain. And back into the hospital we go. This was like the worst ever, like the worst year of my life.
This was 2021.
This was 2021, folks. Yeah. So did that, got out, came home. I was like, that is it. I'm not going in for any more surgeries. That's it. Like, I am telling my body, you can't, don't be stupid, you know? And so from then on, I was like, I have to do this. And I remember after the brain surgeries, I was like in a hospital bed at some point. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, how do I get through this? How am I going to do this? Because I'm driving myself nuts. I can't sleep at night. I'm on so many drugs. There's so many noises. I spent so much time in the freaking hospital. And I was like, how am I going to get over this? And so what I did was I visualized, and this is crazy, and I can say it now because this has already happened. I visualized me now. So back then, when I was in that hospital bed, I was like, I have to visualize my future self at my strongest because I know that I'm going to get there. And I have to visualize future me telling me now, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be good. You're going to make it. This is temporary. Everything is always temporary. And the visual of me that I had created in my head was strong, was happy, was funny, was cool, was awesome. Like all these like great words. And I had to really close my eyes and envision myself.
It's so positive.
But it's crazy that that's me today. Like that's me now. And it's crazy that I had thought of me back then, now.
Right. At that period that could feel so low.
It was so low.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do every night that I couldn't sleep, that I was in pain.
That you can't go work out.
That you, and like beeping or like all the hospital noises. And I visualized. And I kept visualizing me until I was like free.
So you feel like you're at that place that you visualize now?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing what your mind can do. And I got to say that the mind is a very powerful thing in both a negative and a positive way. It can play tricks on you. It can help you. It can do a lot for you, but it can also do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is to always listen to your heart, which is hard to do. A lot of people are always like, oh my gosh, like, what if? That's your brain creating all of these things that haven't happened ever. and that could possibly happen or possibly not happen.
Right.
And I think it's your heart that leads the way. So always listen to your heart.
Yes.
Yes.
Listen to your heart.
When it's
Calling for
For
you.
you.
Yes. We're a band.
Man. Wow. Yeah. I mean, hearing you talk about all this stuff, it's like, absolutely, you're an inspirational person.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Like you've gone through way more than I had any idea you'd been through.
Yes.
And I like that outlook, I guess, that you took of being in 2021 and visualizing where you're going to be now. I mean, like, absolutely, I agree. There's power in the way that you think, right?
Yeah.
Not going into a place that could be negative, right? Like that's huge. And maybe I'll ask about that in a little bit here. Yeah.
So.
Yes.
But when you were visualizing yourself, were you like you were in that negative place that made you visualize it?
Yes.
Like it's almost like you had to be that low in order to see yourself.
That is exactly
and that's like scary to me.
That is very, very scary, because I gotta say, I've been at that low a lot, like multiple times, and you actually hit the hammer. You hit the hammer on the head. You hit the nail on the head.
I was like, she's saying it right.
No, you hit the nail on the head with that one, because you have no choice.
Yeah.
Right? And I love that question, because you have two choices.
Yeah.
Right? You can get up or you can stay down. And I was like, okay, I'm already at the lowest. There's no other way but up. Like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I was literally at my lowest. I couldn't do anything. So yeah, great question.
Yeah. That's we've said this so many times on the podcast now, the idea of you need to learn lessons yourself. That's another one of those like tropes or cliches of like when you hit rock bottom, that's when you know you're there, you know, and then you see that the only way is up. One hell of an experience of that. You know what I mean? Like that's a really good example of that. Wow. Good question, Cabs. Yeah.
Also, sorry, before you go.
No, please.
Another thing that I found that I had to overcome mentally. There's a lot of things actually that I had to overcome mentally. Yeah.
Give yourself some credit.
Exactly. High school, big thing. Like we talked about. Now you're 16, I think it is. Everybody's getting their driver's license. Okay. Okay. Oh my gosh, Sarah, I got my driver's license. Did you get yours? Why aren't you driving? All these questions. What the what the hell do you tell people, though? A lot of people didn't understand, and a lot of people didn't know. Me looking the way I look, not saying I look perfect, but I look pretty normal, right? You couldn't tell that I was blind.
No.
Not at all.
You can't tell, right? Like, you can't tell these things, and that's me adapting for 20 some odd years since I was sick till now. And I have to say, I'm very lucky. I guess lucky is the word, but I'm very glad that I was able to do that. I know a lot of kids that I met in the hospital that either A, didn't make it, or B, weren't able to advocate for themselves independently. But that was a big thing. Did you get your driver's license? Have you started driving yet? Where's your car? Oh my God. I'll tell you, I'll never be able to drive.
Yeah.
Maybe one day in the future. Maybe if something
automated driving.
Automated, yes,
yeah,
right?
Tesla. Yeah.
But yeah, that was.
But even then, there'd have to be different licensing.
Totally. But that was a big thing too. And even now, I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I ever supposed to get a boyfriend? How am I ever supposed to do this? Right? You ask yourself, I don't know why this is, but the human mind has so much doubt. And it shouldn't, because you are capable of so many things. So yeah, that was a big thing that I find that I think I'm still overcoming. Because every time I like meet people or chat with people, they're like, yeah, like just come on over, and then I'm like, well, I'll be like 2 hours.
It's not as easy for you.
Taking transit or taking my bike or I cycle as well.
You do cycle a lot.
That's a whole other next on podcast. You know, just
on the street.
Yeah, I do. I do. I have my own road bike.
She can ride a bike, but she can't drive.
I know. I was just gonna say I should be. No. But that was a big thing. so overcoming that big mental barrier, like, do you start lying to people? What do you tell people?
Right. Because you almost like don't want to have that conversation either. You know what I mean? And like have to explain your life.
Oh, my mom's calling you. I gotta get yeah. It's so that was really tough. And now, when people ask, I gotta say, so when I do CrossFit, I usually tie my hair up. You can actually see my scar when I tie my hair up. I've had a few people come up to me and be like, "Oh, did you wear a hairband for too long in the sun?" And I'm like, you know, stuff like that.
Even if someone did, just like, what's the
like, fuck off. Why would you? It's my hairband tan. But yeah, I've had a lot of like people come up and be like, "Oh my gosh, like what happened to your head?" And I'm like, you know what? I'll tell you. Come sit down. You know, like I own it. I
was just gonna say, do you find yourself like being more comfortable having that conversation now? I mean, you're saying it here on our podcast, but like,
yeah, no, 100%. And the reason is because, I want to advocate. I want to advocate for kids. I want to be the voice for kids who were like me, who didn't have anyone at such a young age with a sickness and a disability, and
show that you're not someone that has to be dependent on so much and so many other people. That you can be independent the way that you are.
Oh, totally. And like
strong.
And it's strong, yes. And you can do these things. There should never be a limit on what you can or can't do. Because I had a huge limit because I wasn't able to participate in gym in elementary school or high school because that was way too dangerous.
Really?
So let's like cover up your eyes and play dodgeball. But like there, I have to say,
like I was just watching dodgeball the other day, by the way, so that's really funny to me. But no, but like the mental barriers that came up are endless. Like it was gym, it was driving, it was why do you have a larger font? Why do you have that? Why is she leaving class early? Like it was endless. It's like you're constantly being reminded that this thing is a part of your life.
Exactly. Exactly. And when you should be reminded how you fit in. It was such a crazy time in my life, and I almost feel like it was a past life because I've grown so much from that individual to now. Because Matt, my older brother, he was a big basketball player, as you know, and then Caitlin, my sister, she did basketball, she did field hockey, she did everything. And so as a child, I was always like, yes, I love these sports. I want to participate, but I couldn't.
Right.
So I would always be on the side watching and cheering soccer, football, basketball, you name it. And I'm sitting here watching and cheering.
Right.
Like
wanting to play.
How like detrimental is that to like someone who's a young child and growing up having to do that? And so my mom was like, I'm going to get her into a sport where she doesn't have to, no contact sport, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I got into rowing. So that's how she got me into rowing. And the reason why, fast forward to now, why I love CrossFit is because you actually don't need your sight. Everything is feel. Right. Even though what I can see, I use.
Yeah.
Even if you close your eyes, right? It's all feel. It's all technique. It's the coolest thing. And I don't know if this is a thing, but people are like, oh yeah, is it a thing where like you lose one sense and you gain another?
Like Daredevil.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I was like, I totally am more in tune with my body.
No kidding.
Because you have to be more aware. So you're more in tune with your body because you've lost a sense. So you have to be more aware. And so when I do CrossFit, everything I do is with such grace and dedication.
I've watched you posted one of your lifts today. It was a snatch.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Clean as hell.
In Crocs.
Like perfect form.
Thank you.
Yeah, send me that video and I'll put it on the screen. People can see it. Like perfect.
This is what we're talking about.
Yeah, that was sick. That was sick. So I'm hearing you talk about all like the team sports and stuff like that. Like in my head right away, I was going to, CrossFit, like not at all. Like you get to be there on your own, so you don't have to worry about like running into other people, but you just learn the motions, you learn the form, you learn the technique, and then that's what you do. I also noticed on your Instagram today too that you were pointing out that your mom helped change your plates on the bar.
Yes, she did.
Is that part of like helping you out in this sense, or is that also just like a CrossFit thing?
That's
like
a
they gotta
CrossFit
help
thing.
you. Yeah.
They gotta help you, and she forgot. But it was so funny.
So fast, like a
she
pit
was
change.
So fast. It was so funny. Everyone was like, "Yeet!" She like threw the guard off. But yeah, my mom is like an angel. Is like understatement. She's everything. She's my rock. She's always been there to support me all the time in anything I've done. Has always done her absolute best to keep me on track, keep me healthy, keep me safe. Obviously, what every mother should and can do. I'm speechless. Like I have no words to explain how amazing she is, just because she's done everything she possibly can for me.
Wow.
She would give her life for any one of her children, and she's told me that many times.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It must feel pretty good.
It does. And it's so funny. Every day she's like, I aspire to be like you. And she's like, I want to be you. And I want to, like, she's so motivated. And I don't take enough time to appreciate how much she is inspired by me, because I'm like, oh, it's my mom.
Yeah.
I know she's just saying that because she's my mom, but she really is, and I can see it, and that's why I'm coaching her now.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Does it fuel you to like do more?
Yes, it does. Yeah. And I have to say that I haven't made this public yet, but I just had a competition. So it was the CrossFit Open. It was 3 weeks of workouts. So every Thursday for 3 weeks, they would release a workout. And you would sign up online and you'd have to do it. So
and like record and register times and that kind of thing.
And you would have to submit everything, and everything would have to be validated. And so the last score was at 5:00. So you could submit anything up until 5 p.m. tonight. And this is also a thing that I had to overcome mentally, was I had to accept that I had put myself in the vision category. So there are different categories. CrossFit is very open to all people, which I really appreciate. Lower extremity, missing arm, age, everything. You can do everything, and I really love that. And so I had put myself in the vision category, and for the longest time my mom was like, you should go, and I'm like, but I can still do it. I can do it regularly.
At the level that other people.
Right? But I am missing what other people have, but here I am trying to do what other people.
And you are doing it.
And I am, but I'm missing so much. Like, so much was taken from me. And I am very stubborn in the sense where I'm like, no, I can do this. I can do what everyone can do, which I can.
Yeah.
I just have to put myself in my own category. And so my mom was like, you should go in the vision category. And I'm like, oh, no, like, blah, blah, no. And so this year, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. They have a competition every year. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And I am ranked 3rd in the world and 1st in Canada.
Yeah. Wow. That's sick.
It's so cool. And I didn't realize like how it's amazing. I was like, this is incredible. Like I'm not giving myself enough credit for who I am.
That's so cool.
It is so cool. I got to show you guys later. It's so cool. It's like 3rd place, Canada. I'm like, yes, represent.
That is so cool. Whoa.
Yeah,
no, you said 3rd place in the world.
3rd place in the world, first in Canada.
First in Canada. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Do you feel like how validating is that to have seen that result? And if you think back like 2 years back to this last surgery where you're at that bottom point, you're visualizing yourself where you are now. How fucking sick is that?
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like I've surpassed that visualization, like way past.
So cool.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just amazing it's amazing what an individual like me can do with a disability. Can you imagine what, people who are struggling who don't have a disability can do? Like, you are so capable of doing anything you want to do.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder though.
Yeah.
Do some people need to hit rock bottom in order to like shoot up, you know? In order to reach in order to realize that they can reach this certain potential?
I think, if I may interject,
yes.
I think that I think that if you do hit rock bottom, you still get faced with that choice of like, do you see a way out of there or not? But I think so many people can probably get really complacent and not realize that they're as close to that bottom as they are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to hit rock bottom to know that, oh shit, like I need to do better.
Yep.
You're going to just coast down here and not realize and like recognize your own potential and like what you can do. Stop discrediting yourself, start valuing what you could do, and look at this potential that you could become, right? Like take those actionable steps. But I think a lot of people find it really easy to coast down here, right? And that points to himself. And like that can be like okay to an extent. Like it is okay. You're not harming anybody by doing that, right? But you're not doing yourself any good either. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. But you do. That is a very good question also, if I may interject.
Please.
The reason why I want to do what I want to do and why I want to aspire to be this advocate for the younger generation's voice is because I don't want that to happen to people. Because I gotta say, it's a really dark and nasty place.
It's better to not hit rock bottom and still work up. Exactly.
But it's like,
you don't have to.
You don't have to hit rock bottom. It's okay. Like, you're going to be okay. There's obviously always going to be ups and downs in life. And your downs may be low, but mine was rock bottom. And I want people to have lows to understand that there can be highs, but maybe not so much rock bottom. And so I don't know if you necessarily need to hit rock bottom, but I definitely have to say that I am very wise in the sense where I've experienced all these things.
You appreciate the fact that you've gone through this stuff in retrospect. You can look back and you can see the value in having hit that rock bottom.
Yes. And the lessons learned. Now, you can make mistakes. You can make all the mistakes. I made so many mistakes, and I'm sure you guys have too, and I'm sure we all, regret them. But in the end, you got to learn. The only thing that's going to help you get over that mistake is to learn. And big mistake, getting into that eating disorder thing. But I have learned so much, and I have another story to tell. And so, that's what I've learned is that I can tell stories to young adults or young kids or even older people. Hey, don't worry. Ew, I have so much fat here. I don't like this chicken. It's okay. Yeah. Like, if you don't like it, I can help you get rid of it. Like, there are options, but you really have to accept yourself, and go through that gross, ugly pain to really get to know yourself. And I feel like self-love is a very, very hard thing for a lot of people.
It can be a product of your environment a lot too, right?
Oh, 100%.
Like hearing your story and everything today, like it's painfully obvious. Painfully is not the right word for it, but it's blatantly obvious how much love and support there's been in your life through like every stage of it from your family, right? So close and supportive of everything. So like your environment taught you like love is real, love's important, and like you gotta have it. And to pick that up for yourself, I imagine that came from your family to some degree too. Maybe I'm making leaps.
No, it's okay. It's again, it was my mom always there, like telling me stuff like, you can do it. I know you can. You're so brave. Like, she has been through everything, that lady. Like, supported me through every competition, supported me through every struggle, every achievement, every first step, from that hospital bed of like recovering up until now is just like incredible. Can you imagine, being beside your child since she was 5 until now? Every single day that I've gone to the hospital, she's always been there. She's always been there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And like as a parent, how could you not say that your child is like super inspirational to you at that point? Right?
Yeah. No
Yeah.
kidding. You're inspirational to, I think, anybody who's going to hear this story.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's cool to listen to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a lot to take in too. And just thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all this stuff with us.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's you kind of answered what was going to be my last question there, which is like, where do you think this all came from? Like this positivity that you bring to so much and like your outlook. But I think you've painted a pretty clear picture of where that all comes from.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I just want to know, so you're super into CrossFit, but
yes,
you've tried like all the other like weightlifting, like other stuff. What about CrossFit does it for you? Just like I'm curious.
Yeah. No, I mean,
because
like,
I find it, sorry to add on to that, I find it easy without ever trying it. I follow along the pretty stereotypical, it's easy to joke about CrossFit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally. There's a lot of people that joke about CrossFit.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not going to pretend I don't.
People are sending me memes of like, haha, you do this, you do that. And you know what? I laugh because I'm like, you know what? I never heard of this, whatever, and like didn't hear of it before. I was going to the gym and doing the same thing all the time. We can all do a squat. We can all sit down from a chair, sit down and get up. We can all do a curl. Like we can all do these like movements. I did it for years. So boring. It is so boring. It gets so boring. And don't get me wrong. I did it for years, so I loved it. At some point, I clearly loved it. But every time I step into the gym, I'm like, I'm here for a challenge.
Yeah.
And I love that because that's my life. My life is a challenge. And so I'm like, hey, what does today have in store for me? I'm pretty sure I can overcome it after everything I've been through. And so I love the process of learning how to perfect the movement. There is only so much you can perfect with a bicep curl.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Right. And I love that you asked me this question because no one has ever asked me. And so I have to think about it and I have to voice it so that I can hear it myself and really know why I truly love it.
Yeah.
It's different. I'm different. It's a process of learning. And I know that every single day I go into the gym, into my CrossFit gym, I can improve and learn something all the time. Whereas like when I was going to the gym, things would just kind of plateau. You can always lift 2.5 pounds heavier. You can always lift 5 pounds heavier.
That was literally me this week.
But it's great. That's a great thing. But I need more. I need more of a challenge.
She's better than you.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm not going to say no at all. No, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing is it's a challenge and it challenges me and it pushes me. And it like the outcome is so rewarding.
Yeah.
Like you've just achieved so much. Like you've done 18-minute AMRAP and you're dying and afterwards you're like, I just completed that. I feel so good about myself.
AMRAP is as many reps as possible.
Rounds or reps?
Fuck.
Either or.
As many rounds as possible.
Yeah, and so the reason why I love my CrossFit gym, which is CrossFit Sea Level.
Shout them out.
Hashtag CrossFit Sea Level.
Took the hoodie off.
Yeah, I'm wearing it. I was wearing it. The diversity of people there is amazing. Like there's my mom. She has osteoarthritis in her hip. So awful. But I'm like, you can still move. Still keep moving. Don't ever stop moving. There are tall people, short people, old people, young people, couples, people who have never like stepped foot into a gym. There's people who are like overweight. There are people who are on the slimmer side. You can always do whatever you put your mind to. And if you want to do it, hey, that's good on you. Yeah. So, and that's why I love it is because I love providing things for people. So providing knowledge, I should say, especially in CrossFit, because people are like, Sarah, how do you do this? I'm so frustrated. Like I don't know how to do it. I've been doing it for hours. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just first relax, right? Anything you do, your mind has to be calm. right? People get all excited, they get all uptight, and they're like, and they're tense. Their mind is tense, then their body becomes
Not
tense.
loose,
Yeah. And so I just love seeing people succeed and achieve their goals.
Good answer.
I hope I answered that question.
Do you feel, I mean, you said at the beginning of what you were explaining there that like CrossFit's different, you're different. Do you see a lot of yourself in CrossFit itself then, like the sport?
It's funny that you say that. I just see, yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
It's intense. It's bold. It's big. Like I think of myself as the same way as, what do you think of when you hear the word CrossFit? Well, people are like, oh my gosh, I think of Sarah.
Yeah.
Like, right? But when I hear CrossFit, I'm like strong, big, fast, like all these like awesome words. And so I'm like, that's what best describes me, is almost the same way I would describe my passion for the sport.
No kidding. Thank you.
Yes.
Again.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thanks for the question at the end there too, Caps. Good question. He's got 2 in for this episode.
It might have been 3.
Maybe. Yeah. Welcome
Might have
back. Again, thank you for coming on the podcast and talking about this. That was really cool. That was really, really cool. I hope people enjoyed this too. I'm sure they will. And again, reminder, if you're listening to this, if you made it to the end and you didn't do an activity already, go do one now. Go do
CrossFit.
something. Go do CrossFit. Go to the gym if you're here in Richmond, BC. Go to the gym.
If you didn't make it to the end, you're weak at that point.
You coward.
I for once, I might watch this back myself.
This guy never watches my episodes. This is why we're doing the video or not doing the videos anymore. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming here and just telling us this whole story. And now me having a previously known relationship with you, established relationship with you, now I feel like I really know you.
Yeah.
Or at least start to really know him. This is really cool. Really cool just for me on a personal level.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, this was like amazing.
Yeah. Everybody listening and watching, I hope you all enjoyed this week's episode as usual. This will still be fully on YouTube. So if you just listen to this and if for some reason you want to go and watch it too, go for it. Watch it. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff where you can. And we'll see you next week with another episode. Peace.